Hi everyone, thanks for watching. You can support our work on our website ageoftruth.tv. And please like our videos, subscribe to our channels on YouTube, BitChute and Brighteon. And remember to hit the bell for notifications. And follow us on Instagram and Facebook. To be sure not to miss any of our shows, you can sign up for our newsletter on our website ageoftruth.tv.
Hello and welcome to this special edition of Age of Truth TV. I'm Lucas Alexander in Northern Sealand in Denmark in beautiful spring of 2022. Yesterday we filmed a very fascinating, exciting episode of Age of Truth TV with a young 27-year-old man who has become a spiritual medium clairvoyant, seer and wayshower. He is an animal whisperer, and he's been educated in animal telepathy, human telepathy, and he's able to tap into the Akashic Records for information about this world's secret hidden mysteries. It's going to be a fascinating show for all of you, and I would like you to welcome a name brother. His name is also Lucas Bergendahl. Lucas Bergendahl, or as it is said in Danish, Lucas Bergendahl. Yes. A name brother, Lucas, and perhaps even a brother in spirit, but certainly apparently an extraordinary spiritual seeker, seer, and wayshower. Welcome here to our show. Welcome to Age of Truth TV.
Thank you. It's an honor for me to be here.
You are an animal whisperer. You speak to animals. You hear their thoughts, their emotions.
Yes.
And you do that through your telepathic abilities. And you also use the same telepathic abilities on humans to look into their past and to their past lives, and also to heal traumas and see and go beyond the physical to other dimensions. And you also claim to have access to the Akashic Records.
Yes.
To tap into greater wisdom, ancient knowledge, and real history as it was, not the lies that we've been told by the top elitists and the allowed historians.
Yes.
So there's so much to talk to you about. You have so much to share, and you're very new in this field in a way because you're only in your 20s and you've gone into this incredible world of the unknown, trying to find your way ahead. And from what I've already heard about you, there is a lot, and there's a lot to even get into. But first of all, before we really, get into specific topics, please tell the audience a little bit about your background and your history, how you got started, how you had your breakthrough into this spiritual and esoteric realm. From what I've heard, you were faced by the devil, or at least somebody you knew was possessed by a demonic entity.
Yes, it's true. I have always had the access to read people's emotions and their thoughts, but I wasn't aware of it. At my school time, I thought it was normal to read people's emotions. So if one of my classmates was sad, with heavy thoughts, I thought it was as obvious that if the person came and said, "I'm sad." So when people were sad, I went to them, but they didn't come to me because I thought it was an obvious thing you had to know. It was first 2 years ago that I figured out it's not normal to read people's emotions. In my early 20s, I was in a lot of pain. I was very confused, like existential crisis. I tried to be successful. I was running some nightclubs, opened them. But the pain just grew and grew, and I just felt like this life is miserable. It's not worth living. And at that time, I understood that I have, in my entire life, been playing with the thought of death, been playing with the thought of leave this earth. Then I started on the school when I was that low in emotions and in my thoughts. I was deep down in pain. I started in the school for animal telepathic communication, where I got a teacher. It was just me and her, and teaching me a couple of times a week. And that started my understanding of there is more than you can see. It was when I started to hear the animals.
But before you explain more about that and what you went into, being schooled by what became your mentor, then you thought about death.
Yeah.
Were you suicidal? What was going on with you spiritually? Did you feel that was there something you just didn't understand?
I was, when I went to the doctors to say I had a depression because I wanted to see a psychologist, they said I was suicidal because, they have these questions. Do you think about death? Do you think about these things? And I said, yes, I do. So they actually sent me to the psychiatric place where they close the doors, lock you in.
Oh, a really like a psychiatric ward.
Yeah, exactly.
A hospital.
So I went there, and then they said to me, you don't have to be here. And I no, I don't have to be here, but I was sent here. So they left me again, and I went home that night. But I was just playing with the idea because that's not the same as being suicidal. We can go into that later on, but it was just my ego, my pain, trying to lock me for being in love to myself.
So you mean you were in love with yourself? Do you mean in a narcissistic way, in a way that you were self-obsessed? It was about your ego, what you wanted in life, ambition, or what, in a negative way?
It was more that when I looked at the world and I saw so many animals being in pain, I saw people being in pain. When I just walked on the street and I could feel that some were suicidal. I could feel that some were being sexual abused and stuff like that. I could not just be here. Because
so you could read their emotions from them just walking on the street.
Yeah, and I thought that was normal.
Didn't you ask questions about that all through your childhood in a way?
No,
But no?
No.
And you thought other children had those abilities as well?
I thought it was a thing that everyone did, but none talked about.
So that was the reason nobody asked you.
Yeah.
Because nobody talked about it, you thought.
Yeah.
And you never asked that question until later.
Yeah, I never asked that question. It was just when I started my own spiritual evolving that I expanded my consciousness enough to figure out that people were not open to those abilities. Because from my opinion, we all have the ability to read those things when we open up towards ourselves.
But you always had those abilities.
Yeah.
That was a gift you had with you, let's say, from birth.
Yeah. From the way I see it is when I travel back to see so many of my lives, I have just worked with them so much and so intensely and healed people through them in so many lives, like thousands of lives. So it's just so integrated in my system, in my energy field around my soul, that it just manifested in my body, just being there from the beginning.
Do you remember the earliest memories of you feeling something that other people felt that wasn't your own emotions? Was it your parents or something?
Yeah, it was already when I was a little kid. I could feel the pain from my parents, even though they didn't talk with us about it because I couldn't barely speak at that point. I can just remember observing them. I could observe the emotions and the pain. It's the same way I heal people today. So there's a pattern.
And now you know how to use the abilities.
Yeah.
And then you just did it unconsciously, or?
Yeah.
And it worked?
I believe so. For me, when you heal someone, you don't have the responsibility, and I have to remember myself in this also, because I'm still struggling a little bit with that you don't have the responsibility to cure the person. If we talk about emotional disease, physical disease, you don't have the responsibility to cure the person, but you are healing through assisting. Every pain, every suffering is a bit of our karmic cycle. So if we just take that away from them, they won't get through the suffering to expand their own consciousness. So we can't remove the suffering. I didn't remove it from my parents either, but I'm pretty sure that I healed a part of the energetic pain of the loop they are going through. Yes.
Were you brought up in a spiritual family? Were your parents into the spiritual, let's say, realm or philosophy or anything themselves?
No, not really. My mom was already open to it at that time, but she was not a serious seeker, you can say. But she was still serious, and she was still a seeker, but she was not a serious seeker, if you understand what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
She was called a witch already in the 90s when I was born.
A witch?
Yeah, just because she was into the herbs and the ecological, because that was not common around where we lived. Yeah. So she was already being laughed at as a witch. So on that way you can say she was a little bit spiritual, but not a serious seeker.
So she knows how to use herbs for healing and was interested in doing it in the ecological way, in a way.
Yeah, in a more daily way. I have always been granted a lot of herbs when I've been sick with a cold or something like that. Just stopped in my throat, just the herbs, flowers, all the things.
Natural medicine.
Natural plant medicine. Not the psychedelic, but the plant medicine of flowers.
Real plant medicine, and not the mind-expanding one.
Yeah, exactly.
And we can talk about that later also, because you've also delved into that world as well and know about that. But I mean, when you discovered that these thoughts were too massive and you had to understand yourself better, I guess this was what happened when you went to the psychiatric ward.
Yeah.
How did you even find your way to the spiritual realm, understanding that this is a spiritual message? There's something there that wants to talk to me.
It was my mom. My mom got a very strong intuition, but she's not aware of it. It was my mom. She I was living at home, and I was in this deep hole, a lot of heavy thoughts and a lot of depression around me. So she found a lecture with an old disciple of a seer, and she said, I want you to go to this lecture with me to see it. And we went, and something just started within me, not because of this disciple of the seer, but because of the stories about the seer.
Was it Lars Muhl?
Yeah.
All right.
It was.
Yes.
Yeah.
We've done several shows with him, which people can watch on our channel, of course. So we know all about his story, and people can watch his history with his teacher, the seer, as well. Yeah.
It was the way he described Kalle, the seer, his teacher. The way he described him. I was sitting here and in this little chair with maybe 50 people, and I could just feel this energy field around, like someone was watching me and watching everyone else, like just a big healing happening. And I didn't understand it because I was not open yet. So I was like, okay, my mind is either crazy or something is happening. But I could feel like a strong attraction to discover it, because I could feel this is deep in my DNA. This is my instinct. Like, I have to eat, I have to drink, but I also have to seek for this, because this is a part of me.
How old were you at the time?
24, 25, around there.
And now you're 27, so it's only a few years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then later on, my mom and dad discovered my mentor, my previous mentor in animal telepathic. And then I just had a talk with my parents, and they said to me, Lucas, there is a deep hole in you, and it's like nothing can really fill this deep hole. No joy, no girlfriend, no really happiness can fill this hole. There is a part of you that's missing, and we believe it's something spiritual.
So they understood that?
Yeah.
They did think that was the key?
Yeah. They started to send me. They were the one making the connection to my former mentor. They were the ones starting my journey, you can say.
So this was a journey where I guess, or you can tell me, it wasn't really about you and healing people, but this was about animals.
Yeah.
And telepathy with animals.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
I've just always had this very strong love to animals, like a deeper connection than humans. And now I understand why. We can come into that later, but animals are just so pure. So feeling their pain it just went deeper into me. I have always, even when I saw a mosquito, I didn't want to kill it. I just wanted to release it. Like, it's part of me. I'm part of it. It has always been deep in my system. So I think that's why animals came in, because it's just a part of who I am somehow, to be around animals.
Were you brought up with dogs or cats or something?
We had a dog. We also had some cats. Yeah, and the dog, when I was a kid, it was the same dog that's incarnating and teaching me the telepathy now.
Oh.
Yeah, it's my master, my teacher.
That's interesting. So how did you discover that you had the ability? How do you speak to animals? How does that even work?
So first of all, this school, she taught me how to start to open up, but it was not there I learned the deep telepathy. I learned that by myself when I stopped there. Because then I opened up enough to start to communicate with my dog. Balder, that's my dog, so we just call him Balder. He's 7.5 now, and when I had Balder, I just saw this little puppy, and I felt this is the light in my darkness. And Balder is the Nordic god for light. That's why he got his name. So I opened up in the telepathy, and suddenly he just taught me so much of my own mind and my own control and everything around it. If I just thought about going on a walk with him, he was standing at his harness, being ready to go for a walk. Like, every single thought I had, he was affected by it. So I needed to learn to be aware of my thought patterns and my emotions because it affected him.
And this happened before you started to learn how to really use it in a constructive or in a spiritual way as a teacher.
Yeah. This was my teaching after the telepathy school, where I got introduced to telepathy and to energies and to the spiritual world. After that, it was my own teaching. I got taught in my sleep from this very light being called Tamilka. He taught me in my sleep, and then in my awakening state, it's my dog Balder who taught me about myself.
So there's a light being, you say, like an alien, an ET,
Yeah.
coming into your, manifesting in a physical form, or is it in a spiritual sense?
It's in a spiritual sense, but he's with me, and I got him in a crystal where he somehow live. I got integrated him in a crystal, so I always carry that with me, and he has been following me through a lot of lives. He comes from Orion.
Where Orion's belt
Yeah.
is where how the Egyptian pyramids were built.
Yes.
In that particular little line there.
Yes,
That
exactly.
is bending just a little bit.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing, because he's teaching me about the pyramids from Atlantis, not from Egypt.
From Atlantis.
Yeah, Atlantis, yes, the same kind of pyramids, the same way to open up to the wisdom. That's not on this earth, but a wisdom from above, you can say, from a cosmic wisdom.
So do you see this light being in your head? Is he speaking to you in your dreams or in your awake state of? Are you awake when you communicate with him?
Yes,
in your dream state.
It's like this this little state between, this little state between awakening and sleeping, where you sometimes get this little like you're falling or something. This state is just being there for like 2 or 3 hours, where he teach me, like going into my mind and telling me a lot of things.
Through lucid dreaming, then.
Sometimes, but also just sometimes I can also have my eyes open, and a lot of thoughts are getting integrated in my system. That's not mine. A lot of words I don't know. Just a lot of pictures I see, and then it's just getting integrated into my system. He followed me since I left for Atlantis. Where I also taught at Atlantis in telepathy, to expanding the love between humans and animals. And then I had a partner. She was teaching in crystals.
And this is what you've been told by this light being.
Yeah, and I see it because I also learned to see my own past lives.
And do you feel that this is the truth, that this being is telling you the truth?
In the beginning, I thought I was like insane, because what is this? How did this master? How did he occur, and why did he come and teach me? It's just this must be my imagination I had. But then I got taught so much about imagination, and I started to see how thought forms have an energy field. So I actually learned what to see when it's a thought, and when it's an emotion, and when it's the real truth.
So it's not like hearing voices, like
No.
schizophrenia or something?
No, it's more like if you are sitting and you're thinking, but the thinking is got this sparkle of divinity.
So it's like a download. It's something that comes
Yeah.
from another realm. It's not. It's something from outside.
Yes.
Going in.
Yeah, because
you feel.
it's not something Lucas is experienced enough to understand from himself.
But this is very exciting and also an important topic and field area to get into. But before we really go further into that
Yes.
world as well, we must get back to how you got your breakthrough.
Yes, that's
and what actually happened. Because as I said in the beginning, you were faced by the devil or somebody close to you that was possessed by a demonic entity.
Yes.
How did that happen, and why did it happen?
It happened because I stopped at the telepathy school. She didn't like that I stopped. Because
She was your teacher,
Yeah.
and she was in this field for a long time.
Yeah.
You got very close to her, like a mentor or what?
Yeah.
And you had a very strong bond.
We had a very strong bond. I was at her place every day, like a complete devotion to her animals and to her. This deep devotion of seeking the truth through her and letting go of my own pain just to go the way she told me to go. That was the way I got taught.
Did you feel more safe or secure in her energy?
No, because she pushed to my ego and my pain and suffering so much that I was just in pain all the time. But I just learned to be so devotional that it was about saving animals, so my own pain was not as important.
So she was feeding your ego.
She was feeding her own ego by my devotion, because she learned me to let go of my own suffering, to be there for others, like not being my own pain. Because before that I could victimize myself so much from my pain that I felt like paralyzed when I was in pain. But she taught me the love for animal is stronger than your own pain. So you can work through your own pain by being devotion of love to animals.
So you actually got rid of that.
Yes.
Let's say that those chains that were holding you captured.
Yeah.
Being paralyzed and being the victim, you said.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And then, but her ego got fed because I was just a full devotional to her.
But didn't your ego get fed as well?
She didn't do anything to tell me I was important, or that I did something good. She always just told me that I didn't do good enough.
Oh.
Yeah. So that was a kind of manipulation.
Oh,
she manipulated me in that way. So my ego wasn't actually getting fed by it, because I just felt I was nobody. That's a good thing, but on another way, of course.
She was the important teacher, and you were never really good enough, but you were always on the way.
Yeah,
or what?
I had potential, but I needed to be very devotional and kept doing it before my potential got released.
Do you think she had feelings for you?
No.
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 But you decided eventually that you did not want to be this close to her. Is that what
Yeah,
happened?
because her ego started to be fed and she got very manipulative to me, so I stopped. So after I stopped, a demon, an entity, came into...
A loved one?
Yeah, a loved one I had, and came deep into the person's mind. The person started to scream and yell, and doors getting open and smacked in, and no, it felt very insane in the moment. In the heat of the moment, it was not in a long time. Maybe it was just a minute or so.
Like there were ghosts in the house?
No, there was not ghost in the house. There was something into the person's mind, something into the person's energy field.
So that person that was close to you opened and shut and closed the doors,
and screamed
opened the door.
and stuff. Yes.
Really? And
Yeah.
this was unusual for that person that you know very well?
Yeah, it's not a common thing. So when I experienced that, I think it's only a minute after, I just get into this. I felt very tired. and I felt very dizzy. And I just felt I had to sit on the floor and just close my eyes. So I did that. And when I closed my eyes, I saw a lot of colors. And I just followed the colors because it was not Lucas in the thought, it was just something else taking over, like the soul taking over. At that time I didn't know it was the soul taking over, but it was part of the soul behind Lucas that just came in and said, okay, now we gotta work. Lucas is not ready for this right now, but there's something the soul has a responsibility to do, so we do that now. So I just observed it. And I saw how different colors of shapes were around the kidneys and the liver at this person. First of all, there was like this red layer.
Spot?
Yeah, no, this was like a red layer around the person's energy field, like blocking for the person's own energy to come in. So after I released that one, I got into the person's body and I saw this black and very deep purple colors in this kind of bubbles, you can say, around the kidneys and the liver. There was 5 of them. So I had to release them. And what I did was I got into the bubble. And then I just tapped into my heart. I felt the love for myself and for that person like I've never felt before. And suddenly they exploded.
Those bubbles
Yes.
that you saw, that you felt, that you saw.
Yeah. And after the last bubble, the last bubble was on the right kidney. And after that one, it was the hardest one to remove. It was very strong and very, yeah, there was a lot of power in it, we can say. So I had to find a deeper discovery of my own heart, my own love towards life, towards this person. And the more I got into this love, the deeper I went to it, the more it got released until it exploded. And as soon as it exploded, my physical body woke up by my body hitting the couch between me. It was like a meter between where I was sitting and the couch, and I just like got thrown back into the couch with my back, the back of my shoulders.
You flew in the air?
It was not like flying, but it was more like
Being pushed?
Being pushed, yeah, but being pushed very hard, yeah. It was like an energy field just pushing me into it.
And you felt this physically, and it happened physically?
Yeah, I had a pain in between my shoulders for like a week after, and I can still feel the pain, and it's over a year ago, right?
What would you say that, this is also very interesting, what do you think that was that pushed you in the chair or in the sofa?
It was a big karmic release from this entity I have been struggling with for 700 years.
Oh.
Yeah.
For 700 years?
Yeah.
That's a while.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a big topic to get into. We certainly want to get into that, but I mean, let's just be in that physical place at that very moment.
Yes.
And then we can go into the 700 years. But what pushed you? It was that entity. Was it that entity? Was it like an Archon?
It was, what pushed me was the explosion of the darkness getting into the light. So it was actually the light exploding and expanding so powerful that it really somehow affected the physical air around me, the physical energy around me.
Enough light can shatter the darkness.
Exactly.
Was it an Archon? Or was it something big? I mean, there are many Archons,
Yeah.
of course. Well, demons,
Yeah.
the Christians call it.
Yeah.
Was it one of those entities? Was it something bigger than that?
It was a part of it. It was an Archon, yes, you can say. It was like a demon, an Archon.
Mm-hmm.
But it has a connection to a bigger demon, to a bigger Archon,
The demiurge.
It was like a soldier of a leader, and that's the leader that have trying to push me down since as well.
Which some people describe, I don't know if that is what you're talking about, but the demiurge is described as the so-called king of the Archons.
Yes.
In a way.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the best way I can explain it is on a human language. If you take Lord of the Rings and you have the eye, it's not the eye itself, but it's like one of the generals leading one of the armies. That's the one that's trying to push me down. Mm-hmm. That's the best way I can explain it on a more physical way, you can say, a concrete way, right?
And those bubbles around the liver and the kidney of your close loved one, what was that then?
It's the way that lower frequencies go into affect higher frequencies. It's like diseases. It's thought forms of very negative thoughts. It's emotions of very negative emotions that's affecting the person so much that the person thinks it gets triggered into believing that it's the person itself, even though it's not.
This is also what a spiritual teacher like Louise L. Hay talks about when she in Heal Your Life, that it is your emotional state and your thoughts that create, well, dis-ease, as she calls it, in the body as well, and you can heal your body from every disease, basically, with the power of your mind and really understanding how to work with those frequencies. But this was around the liver and the kidney, and who put it there? Was it something that manifested because that person had been going through a lot of trauma that was unhealed? Or do you think it was connected to the spiritual mentor that you had to remove yourself from?
I cannot say that for sure, but the timing was with a couple of days. So it could be, but I cannot say that for sure. But it has a connection somehow to me and her karmic situation. Your
teacher?
Yes.
So you felt that she may have put like a spell on you or something?
Maybe it was not. Maybe she was not even conscious about it. But when you have those abilities, and the ego starts to arise, the ego can start to manipulate your energy to use your abilities on a negative way.
On other people?
Yes.
But some people also talk, I mean, this is known to be done also through voodoo and other things. We just had somebody on recently who can use voodoo for good. But I mean, how can you even go in and affect somebody else's energy field? You're not allowed. And if you are shielded from that, and if you've been shielding yourself and protecting yourself through an energy field from being hit by those negative frequencies from other people, even if they're sorcerers, how can they even affect you?
Because they always find, it's like if we just call them demons. Let's call them demons because that's easy. Demons has a tendency to scan the system and see where you haven't lightened up yourself yet. Those parts of you that's still in suffering, that's still in pain, is because you haven't enlightened it in yourself yet. So when a demon comes into your body, it scans the body, it scans the system to see where you're still stuck in the pain. That's where you're vulnerable. It goes into that area, it goes into that state in your consciousness. It's not in your consciousness, but in your consciousness. Consciousness is not the right word because consciousness is like God, you can say, right?
It's way beyond the physical.
Yeah, exactly. It's very beautiful. The consciousness, I mean, it's beautiful. But it goes into your thought forms. So the entity, the demon, goes into the thought form where you still haven't enlightened yourself enough to let go of the suffering. And then it tricks you. It tricks your mind with a lot of thoughts. You think it's your own. It tricks you with emotions that arises into thought forms, into feelings. And when you're stuck in a feeling, it's very hard to get rid of if you think it's your own, because then you identify yourself as the feeling.
But even if you have some, let's say, unsolved emotional problems or some physical problems in your body that are not totally healed, or you're not in, let's say, in full balance.
Mm-hmm.
How can, and if you are aware of it and aware of how to protect yourself, maybe if you're not aware, but if you are aware, then it shouldn't be able to hit you, should it?
After that incident, after that episode, I was starting to be afraid of demons, because they came to me. I couldn't see them, but they came to me in a physical way where I could hear them. And they affected me and my dog so much that my dog pooped inside of fear, like just pooped beside my bed in fear, because they were affecting him so much. So I was afraid at that time, and I thought, how can they come into my system if I'm protecting myself? Until I figured out that I have still suffering in myself. I have still pain in myself. That pain is part of a karmic release. That's part of a karma I'm going through. And it's affecting my body until I got it released. As long as we still have this pain, there is something it can go into and it can affect you with.
And maybe you didn't have the tools yet totally to know how to use them. And you only acquired your, let's say, that breakthrough, that spiritual breakthrough, because of this, right?
Yes and no, because they have also affected me afterwards, after I got my abilities. Because after this episode where I got out of the healing process, the day after, all these abilities just came to me, like Akashic Records, telepathy in a deep soul connection, Karmic reading, scanning the body system. I learned how to go in and see, okay, your levels affect this way. You maybe need this or this, or the healing of touching, astralic healing, I think it's called.
It's called astral
healing. Astral healing, yes. Mm-hmm. And past life reading and stuff like that. All that came one day after.
All of it.
All of it. It's just. My body was affected for a lot of time afterwards, because so much in energy got integrated in my system.
There was a lot on your plate there, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
How did you process that? I mean, it's a lot, And did you know about all these concepts?
No.
You did not know about all these things you're talking about now, which there are major things in the spiritual world, so to speak. And
that's the thing. When people ask me now, what do you do? I cannot say, because I don't even know the concept of all the abilities yet. I'm still in a process where I suddenly just do something, and then the person says, "What did you do?" And I'm like, I don't know. So I still don't know the concept of all the abilities yet. And to be honest, I'm not so curious in knowing the concepts, because it's just happening, and for me that's very beautiful.
And you heard these concepts within you, understanding that this is astral projection or astral travel or astral healing, or let's say just your healing abilities, the Akashic Records. You could tap in to see history or the truth. If that is the truth, what you can grab from these Akashic Records, what you can see, what you can read.
Yeah, the word Akasha Records I heard one time, a couple of months before this happened. It was my mentor just saying, you will have an ability to read the Akasha Records. And I said, what is that? And she said, you're not ready yet. It was first a lot of months after the situation with the healing that I understood what I did. That was the Akashic Records, that the downloads I get down from my past lives, when I see how it was in Atlantis, how I see it was before the power, affected religion, how I see some parts of the universe, how it can be created, why it's created within the reason of the purpose of the humanity, stuff like that. It was first a long time after I recognized it was the Akashic Records, because I didn't know.
Are you able to see or to tap into the Akashic Records to see why Earth possibly is a slave planet in a way, or a prison planet? Why we are like capsuled or something within the matrix, like a playground for maybe other entities. This is at least what some people speculate, and why we have so much hatred and craziness, madness. We're just going through a lot of that at the moment in the world.
Yeah. Yes, I tap into that. It's not everything I tap into. I'm still learning it because it's only 12 months ago. I think it's 13 months ago now since I opened up. But yes, I tap into it, and I can tap into a lot of things. Sometimes I still need help to close my eyes, to go in, to get the integration. Then I ask for seeing something, and then within the next couple of weeks, it comes down to me.
So it can take some weeks.
Sometimes it comes like immediately. It's different. I told myself when I opened up to my abilities, and that's why if you talk about a lot of teachers, I don't know them. I know a few teachers, and that's only because I wanted to get the teaching from my own Akashic Records. I want to get the teaching from my ability to tap into that. I wanted to get the teaching from my Balder, from my dog, and from Tamelga. Because if I'm reading things, then I'm comparing it with what I get right now. I rather want to have a lot of teachings from the spiritual world, and then afterwards I can read to learn more.
So how does it work in a constructive way for you? How have you been able to process that in the last 13 months?
It has felt so natural. It has just felt natural, like I have done it my entire life. Like I can feel that it's just more normal to me to do this than walking around being on nightclubs and dancing and stuff. You know, this is just a part of me. I feel more home in it, more safe in it actually.
And how would you like to use it, or are you already, have you already started to use it with clients?
I haven't used it. I have used it the way, if clients ask me about something because they're confused, I tap into it to give them an understanding. I also have a lot of people emailing me or messaging me around different topics because they're confused. So I use it on that way to help them understand the confusion and why they're confused, to letting go of the confusion. That's how I use it right now.
So what do they ask, or what can you ask? Please explain to those people watching that may not know too much about the Akashic Records.
Okay, so
what can you find there?
Yeah, the Akashic Records is how I see it. It's not a concept. It's just it's really just, if we can try to put it in a concept where the rational mind can understand it. So imagine you have like a library, like the biggest library around everything. This library contains books about everything from the beginning of the universe until now, but also in the future. Because where the Akashic Records, this library of the Akashic Records, where it's stored, you can say, there's no time and space, so you can also see the future. One of the things that I get down with the Akashic Records, and I see that a lot, because it's one of the responsibility I have to work with for the humanity, is that the humanity is behind the schedule from the cosmic place. We're behind because we're too stuck in the suffering. We're too stuck in the ego. So we're behind. That's why we're getting pushed right now. A lot of wars, a lot of diseases, because we have to push the suffering through so we can awaken, because we're behind.
But the top elitists behind the New World Order and the Great Reset that they want to that they're pushing on people at the moment, which is part of this New World Order UN Agenda 21 plan. They are orchestrating these wars and the so-called diseases and whatever is going on here. To do what? In order for humanity to wake up? Those who can? What about those who can't, which is most people?
Yes. And that's where it gets it can feel a little bit scary for someone to hear the truth. But for me, the truth and what I see is that, just to talk about the demons again, because it has a connection to what we're talking about now.
Certainly.
Every demon that come into our life, like you can also say the ego is an identity. No, an entity. The ego is an entity. It's not us. The ego is not us, but it's an energy field coming into our system for us to learn how to handle it, to not identify ourselves with it, so we can let go of it. When a demon come in, to go into our mind, go into our emotional system, to trick it, it all comes with a teaching. It all comes with a teaching, some kind of suffering, so we can learn how to handle something. So as I see it, and I have learned on the hard way, because I have been since that came, I have been in a lot of wars with demons. That's why I'm also using psychedelics sometimes, the plant medicine, to help seeing what I couldn't see, because I was afraid sometimes.
Do you see more or gain access to more knowledge by using plant medicine? Are we talking about magic mushrooms and ayahuasca?
Yeah, I'm not seeing more, but sometimes I see it more clear. If I'm stuck in my fear, let's say some entity came into my field, and I'm stuck in more fear, then I don't have the ability to see through it, because if I'm doing a telepathy with someone and I have emotions, I'm not neutral. Those emotions is on a lower frequency, and they are putting a veil in between me and what I have to see. So using the psychedelics is a way I learned to see some of those things when I was in fear and I couldn't see it clear. I'm not seeing more when I'm using psychedelics now.
But shouldn't you be careful using psychedelics,
Yes.
you say, or psychedelic drugs or plant medicine? I guess some people will say there's a great difference there.
Yes.
I mean, it's not for everybody. It's not something
No,
you
it's
would
not.
recommend using.
No, it's not. It's if you have a call for it, then you should figure out what that call is about. Do you have to do it? If you really feel a call, find someone that can hold the space the right way, because go out and you find 90% of them, they don't use the psychedelic the right way. It's a very fragile subject we're talking about. But using the right way, it can be a good medicine. Using the wrong way, it's not a good thing then. I'm not recommending it to anyone, but if
So you need to be guided, by a very
guided,
good, legitimate shaman, in a way.
Yeah, exactly. And those are hard to find these days.
Certainly,
Yeah.
definitely, yeah. But I mean, the truth, as you see it, you talked about ego. This is
Yes.
where you were, and my follow-up question to that: how can we even be humans, be physical in this physical form without having an ego, even if we have to learn to master it and control it?
Yeah, that's the thing. So we talked about the elite of the world, right? With the demons and the entities.
Mm-hmm.
Just to round that up, because it has something to do with this. Using psychedelics can be a good way to clear some things you cannot see yourself, but you feel the call for releasing. If not, don't do it. You have to feel the call, otherwise the spirits behind them, because they are like masters. There's like masters, big souls, incarnating into the medicine to teach you. But if you don't do it with respect, if you don't do it with the call, they will not be there for you, and then you're just stuck in this crazy world.
And there's a lot of deceivers also on the other realm, right? Or on that, when you tap into that realm, also being under the plant medicine affected by that.
And that's why you need a good shaman. You need a good shaman to help you be in that space.
So how do you know if it's a truthful teacher or guide from the spiritual realm? Like, let's say if it's an angel or a good guide, or if it's a demon, or if it's a devil in disguise. I mean, you know, an Archon taking another form, trying, and you think it's the truth. How do you know if it's the truth?
And we come to that now, because when we talk about the suffering on the world, the demons, as I see it, every demon is a teacher. Because when I invoke demons, I've invoked demons in people, talking with them, and I don't understand them because they talk in different languages, but I'm asking them, are you born in the light? I invoke them by doing some things, and then I just say, are you born in the light? And suddenly it comes up. Because they don't like the idea that they are born in the light. But the fact is, everything is born in the light. Everything is born in consciousness. So every demon is a teacher. That's it. If you're finding a shaman that is maybe in the contact with the entities of the lower frequencies, they can still be a good teacher for you. But then it's just a very hard process you are going through. Mm-hmm. That's not a thing I recommend. But if it happens, then it's because your soul wanted to happen. Mm. If you're following your heart.
You mean there's a reason why?
There's
you
a reason
would
why.
go
It's
on
a karmic.
that?
It's a karmic process. Then you meet this person because of something happened for thousands of years ago or something. Everything happens for a reason, right? Mm-hmm. Just follow our heart. So if you find a shaman, just tap into your heart. Feel, is this good for me? Mm-hmm. Do I feel the call for this? If there is just a little thing in you that says no, just stop it immediately.
And that's where a lot of people don't really listen to their so-called intuition,
exactly,
or the download that they get, or the feeling, the emotion, what we actually call in a primitive way, a wavelength.
Yeah.
Well, between you and somebody else, which are frequencies, basically. Everything is frequencies.
Everything is frequencies.
And created by vibration and energy frequencies, as Tesla said.
Yeah.
But I mean, so people don't listen. Is that what you actually say? They don't really listen enough to themselves because they are blinded by beauty or a good feeling of maybe love or excitement, or this is somebody who's more bright than me, who can teach me.
Yeah, it is. I have met a lot of people doing ayahuasca, and then I said I will never do it again because I had just a very bad trauma with it. And when I hear that, I just want to say, so are you running away from that trauma now? That doesn't mean you have to do it again. But if you say, I will not do it again, then you are pushing a trauma down in your own throat, right? And pushing it into your body. If you still have to release that trauma. I'm not saying you have to do it with ayahuasca the next time, but don't victimize yourself. That's the thing. And what I see, the problem is with people using psychedelic, having a bad trip, because it's a bad trip. We can call it a bad trip. Then the trauma afterwards, they are getting stuck with them. That's the problem.
And that can manifest as a disease maybe, or something bad for you, an imbalance in the body maybe, or in your psyche.
You have to follow your heart. If it feels right, you'll find the right one for you.
So did you tap into who we talked about, the elite, the people orchestrating whatever illusion we are in on the planet? Did you tap in to see what they are, who they are, where they come from? What did you see? Are they from here? Are they human beings, or are they something else?
There is like this elite you talk about. I see around 10 and 20 beings physically manifested, but not in a human body. Not in a human body, but in something else.
What?
Yeah, in different forms, because they can also change their shapes. But it's not
shapeshift.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not a human. So we're not talking about a human like you and me sitting here and talking. It's something else. And they're sitting and they're controlling a bigger part of their disciples, you can call it. And then they're just going down the chain, right? And then they're just sitting like this puppet master,
stepping stone compartmentalization and like a pyramid structure.
Yeah, exactly. They're causing a lot of chaos.
Who are they?
Yeah.
That top elite? That's the eye on the top of the pyramid?
They have been there from the creation of the universe. They have been the lower frequencies when the yin and the yang, you can call it, when the light and the darkness started to happen in the universe, when the universe got created by these two forms of powers, because it's just very strong energies, right? It created the universe. You can call it whatever you want to, but it's like light and darkness. That's the universe we're living in. Not every universe is like that.
And there are many, huh?
Yeah.
Parallel dimensions, parallel universes.
Yes, and there are also other universes.
But who are they?
Yeah.
What kind, are they alien beings, or are they, let's say, demonic entities that go into alien beings?
Yeah, exactly. Because if you are from the creation of the universe, you don't have a form. You're just pure energy. But you can just manipulate with the energy so much that you take a form. So if you take a form to be like a shapeshifter, to be like you can also see this way of the the Christian Bible says about demons and stuff. There is like just a lot of forms. All the forms is just to scare us. Because if they get fear into our body, we will not be so much into love, and then we are even more vulnerable. So when you have an elite of around 10 and 20 entities, beings, from the creation of the universe, they don't have a form because it was formless when the universe got created. They're just taking forms to make it easier for them. So they can take form into aliens. Yes.
So this is also what a lot of people who's been a witness or been even a part of some satanic rituals done by the top elitists, dark rituals. They've seen these shapeshifters, they've seen these either reptilian beings or something that looked alien and very, very scary. And they have seen some of these top elitist humans shift into another form that looked more demonic or extremely demonic.
Yeah.
Is that do you have any awareness of that from where you come from what you can tap into?
It's not the elite, because the elite doesn't show to anyone else than the one they are controlling. They're not showing to anyone else. The tiny elite I talk about with 10 to 20 people, not people, but beings, they're just controlling their little group. Then they're controlling the others. So they will never show to anyone else.
So what you're saying is that those you are talking about are actually beyond, above those ones that are doing these satanic rituals and inviting these top people in positions of power to participate for one reason or the other.
Yeah. We can talk about what happening around the world today with a lot of chaos. But that person is not in response of, is not knowing what the person is doing, because it's just come from so much from above that it's not.
They're not responsible for it, you mean?
You can say they're responsible, because of course you're always responsible of your own actions, right? That's the effect of karma. Cause and effect. So you're always responsible, but there is just someone that this elite is controlling from a place where the people that is starting the war throughout our history, they're never the ones really being in charge, because it comes from above. And
they're more
like a puppet.
Puppets, and politicians, but of course there are some elitists above that.
Yeah.
But of course then we go to another more esoteric or occult realm, and this is what you are mentioning here.
Yeah, exactly.
But don't you think that they are clouding themselves or shielding themselves from you or anybody else with certain abilities to go into their bubble to even see anything that they're doing?
Yes. That's also why it's very hard to say what kind of form they have, because they don't show themselves. They are so protected. They have shielded themselves so much. But somehow, and that's very important to remember, that every entity, every dark energy coming down to Earth, it's still only allowed because of our Mother Earth, because she's powerful. Every chaos that she allowed to come in is because it's a teaching for us. She's more strong than any one of those.
But why do we need all this bad stuff? All this fear,
Yeah.
this hatred, this anger, anxiety, narcissism, madness going on, diseases, where we could have healing and free energy and whatnot?
That's the thing. When I look at my life at Atlantis, it was like what you just described there.
So it was hijacked,
Yeah.
allowed by God or source or
Yeah.
force, whatever you call this,
Yeah.
the all-powerful creator.
Yes.
But I mean, why would somebody like that,
Yeah.
I mean, something that powerful, allow that to happen on this planet?
That's the big question, right? And the closest I come to an answer, not from myself, of course, because Lucas is not able to get this kind of answer. It's about that every soul that comes down to Earth has a contract of going through a lot of things until we can release the ego, the entity, because the ego is an entity, it's not us. What I'm trying to say is that this is like an experiment. This world is like an experiment. And not a lot of people are aware of it, because we come down here and then we cannot remember what we have been before. We just start from scratch every time.
So it's a reincarnation, recycling factory.
There is so many other higher beings being here to observe us, because this is a very interesting experiment. The world is an experiment. It's just a big playground.
A laboratory.
Yeah, you can
We're
say
lab
that.
rats.
Yeah, we are lab rats. It's just like we're just standing on this big playground, a field, and we just have to do a lot of crazy things, because on a soul level, the experience the soul gets, that will go above everything when we enlighten ourselves, when we liberate ourselves from the being.
And wake up to the fact that all of these things that we can't see beyond the physical, beyond the three-dimensional plane where we operate, is true. That there are so many other dimensions.
Yeah.
And so much more that we can't see, that we must understand.
That's the first step. The first step is to wake up to it. The next one is to integrate it so deep in your system that the ego has no identification about who you are anymore. When you start to become nobody that way, then you're liberated.
That will happen when we die, when we're no longer here,
Yeah.
huh? And we don't need to go into that factory, that reincarnation, recycling, karma wheel factory, and go back to Earth with a wiped memory and going into a new body and finding new families.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like a computer game.
Yes.
A simulation, a holographic illusion.
When you have a trauma that is not healed, we all have them, because it happens throughout so many lives of war and suffering, and that's why all these things are happening, because we need the traumas to release them. That's the soul experience. On a soul level, it's just like a blink of an eye. The life is just like a blink of an eye, right? It's just amazing to tap into. But so what I'm trying to say is that when we have a trauma and we haven't released that trauma, that can be a trauma that goes back 1,000 of years. You haven't felt it for 1,000 of years, but suddenly it comes out again. If you don't heal it, it will follow you up with the soul, this negative energy. It's not your soul, but it is around the field of the soul. And then it's going down again into the next incarnation. When we have liberated every trauma, every identification of who we are, then we are not in the cycle of rebirth anymore. But it's like we have to liberate every energy when we're talking about frequency. Every emotion, every thought form, every feeling has to be healed into just being in presence. That's the best word I can find.
Isn't that a slave thought as well? That you have to stay here and not having a free will to move out of this earthly plane and out of this matrix that we have here on this prison planet, that you must heal your past life traumas in order to escape this matrix. It's almost like buying into all of these different religions, and you must do this and that, no sin, no shame, and whatnot.
That's, you can say that, but for me, slavery is when you don't have an option yourself to be a slave. But every soul have chosen to come down here to do it. So on a human level, you can call it slavery, but on a soul level, it's just a gift. It's a blessing to go through it.
But can't you just move beyond that and choose otherwise if you've already woken up to the fact that there is maybe an Archon created, let's say, heavenly realm, what all religions call heaven, which could be this light, tunnel of light, and then you go and you see your relatives looking their best, or whatever you believe in, near-death experiences, talking about meeting Jesus or Buddha or Allah or whatever they believe in, they'll see and they'll get, and their family that they miss looking their best. And then they, look at what their life was through a life review, and then they're asked to go back, or can choose to go back in a new body.
Yeah.
And can you choose to go elsewhere if you know how to exit this realm, because you have free will within your consciousness, on a soul level?
Yes, you can do that. If you have obtained enough enlightenment, enough consciousness, if you have expanded your own consciousness enough, then you can travel to some other places where there is like the same frequency in that. You can do that. But a lot of people a lot of souls choose to reincarnate down here and just stay in it because it's just such a great blessing to experience it all.
So you feel it's even a blessing if you have to go through something really, really bad?
Yes. I can say since I started to open up for my abilities, the pain have just been, I have met so much more pain, because now it was very hard for me with all those abilities to shut down. Also because I tried to suppress it. I was afraid of putting myself as a king or a guru or something like that. So I tried to suppress myself.
Have you gone through ego death?
Yeah. Yes, because when I started to look at my past lives and started to see who I was, I started to feel I was more important than others for a couple of months.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. But I was also aware of it. When I saw those incarnations, I was like, okay. I could feel it. I could feel the spiritual ego arises within me for being someone bigger than, more important than the humanity.
So you were told, and you were told by some people, you felt that you were a chosen one, and perhaps you are, and many people.
Maybe we all are.
Maybe we are all the chosen ones. Yes, definitely. But
yes,
if you're told that, then maybe that is, really feeding the ego big time, especially if you have to be a teacher to others, and this is your path now already, and will be, I'm sure, in the future.
Yeah, I got told a lot that I was a chosen one, and it started to arise in me. I felt very important, also because I could just put a hand on a girl, and that girl just started to have her menstruation again, like for the first time in a year, just by touching a hand. Those kind of abilities I have a lot. When I just had a talk with a woman on, she was maybe in the 60s, she said to me, Lucas, just 1 hour with you, that was better than 30 years of psychotherapy. You know, these kind of stories, when those happened, they started to feed the ego when you're not aware of it. Then I became aware of my ego, started to feel like I was a chosen one. I was better or bigger than the others, you can say. And then I had to go through that pain.
Wow. So this is okay. Let's stay on this topic for a moment. So these are specific frequencies that these women you talk about, that this triggered these women in a sexual way?
No, not a sexual way. It was beyond sexual. It was just in the process of out of the body. They started
menstruating twice. I mean, just
It had happened a lot of times, but it's not sexual.
So why does it happen, and why women? How does men react?
It's not all women that start to do that. But if they have, let's say a girl have had a moment, a painful period of 1 year where the girl haven't had her menstruation. Let's say that. What happens then? Is there something in her life that is suppressing the joy of living so much that she can, what is it called, ovulate? Ovulate, that's the menstruation part. Then it's not about sexuality, then it's about the joy of being alive, being suppressed too much.
So it can happen that a woman doesn't menstruate for a year.
You see that a lot.
What? Oh, really?
Yeah, they're not talking about it, but I see it. And
it's not because they're pregnant, obviously.
No.
So what is it?
It's not a sexual trauma. It's a trauma about life, because the ovulation, that's about giving birth to another being, right? When you are so suppressed in your life that you don't feel the joy of life, you can suppress that thing in your body so much that you don't feel the joy for life.
Are you doing this on purpose if you have these so-called magic fingers?
No, I'm never doing anything on purpose. I'm just aligned with the energy. So if I see there is something stuck, I just go in and put my vibration to rebalance it again. If that has an effect of a girl getting her menstruation back, or if it has an effect of a man starting to ground and getting the roots deep into the earth again, it's the same. It's not something I do on purpose. I never do something on purpose. I just tap into the energy, and then I get in guide to what is showing to me.
Because it is known to us that some teachers or spiritual healers or tantric healers or teachers can use sexual magic in a way in order to trigger orgasms or other things in the body and for sexual therapy.
Yeah. No,
which can maybe be a good thing for some if they're, if they have a problem there.
Yeah.
But maybe we've also heard that some people can exploit that.
Yeah. For me, when I do healing, I tap so much out of who Lucas is, that I get so much out of the identification, that I just sit and think, I am not this thought. I am not this thought. I am not this thought. And I start doing that until I am a complete servant. And there is no identification, no desire, no attachment in Lucas. When I'm at that place, that's the only place I heal people, because then I'm healing from a pure place. So when I go in there, there is no sexual energy. The sexual energy is attached to Lucas, because Lucas has his own sexual energy like everyone else. But in the healing, there is no, because it's beyond the level of the sexual energy.
And your therapy is something you do, and of course, in years to come, this is what you do this for healing purposes and trauma relief for both sexes, men and women.
Yes, exactly. I do it for both, and I'm starting to do courses as well in things. But my one-to-one sessions, it's about expanding the consciousness within yourself, looking at your past lives, seeing what kind of traumas from those lives that have been stuck in energy field, that's going up to you, that's going with your soul up again and coming down, manifesting in your body again until you have it released. So I'm looking at the traumas from past lives, the emotions, and what kind of behavior and pattern it's causing in your life now. So it's a lot of talking, and then after we have relieved the consciousness, the awareness of the trauma, I'm doing a healing session.
When you heal, you use your hands and the mind, or what, in connection?
I'm using the hands when I'm with them. It's like I'm activating the chakras again, the chakras. I'm looking at the organs, seeing if some of them are connecting, because they have an intelligence. That means you can communicate with them. So I do that. I see where they have an imbalance, and I go in to spend my vibration in healing them.
So you can tell if a person has a diseased organ in a way, or an organ that is imbalanced.
Yeah.
Like you did with that person close to you, where you saw the bubbles around the kidneys and the liver.
Yeah.
How do you see that? Is that a picture or a feeling or a knowing inside of you, where you just see that, yes, there's something in here, the heart or the ribs, or I don't know what. Well, that's more, of course, something you can maybe feel. But when you see these organs and feel it, how does it work?
It's a knowing. I know it. I just know it. And then I can tell which kind of patterns or challenges do they have, and they say, yes, that's true.
Karmic patterns or something from this life?
Both. Because they are connected always.
And do you know the difference of where it's truly coming from? Because something could come from this life, like an accident or a bad childhood or something that's been unhealed, not healed yet.
It's very uncommon. It's very rare that someone is going through a trauma in this life that has not come from a past life. So often I first tell them about to get that trust by telling them about the behavior and the trauma in this life. It can be often with the parents or with the school or something like that. Then I tell them, you have had this, you have felt this. And then they say yes. And I said, it comes from this life because of this. So it's a manifestation. Your trauma in this life is a manifestation of what you have experienced and not healed in past lives.
So do you think we go through some of the same things again and again, or do we go through different things?
We go through the same things, but not always the exact same thing. For example, just because you die of a disease in your past life doesn't mean you die of it this life. If you haven't healed it in your mind, in your awareness, and in your heart, if you haven't released it, healed it, then you can get it from maybe, but you have just healed a little bit of it. You can get a disease the next life, but doesn't mean you are gonna die of it, because you have healed a little part of it. So on that note, it's the same if you have experienced sexual abuse in a past life. Maybe you have experienced your partner, your sexual partner, doing something that was traumatic for you, but not as traumatic as a sexual abuse. If you have been raped, for example. You know what I mean?
So if you've been raped and you are a victim of rape in this life, could have happened very early on. Yeah. We've heard about that a lot, of course.
Yeah.
And people are traumatized all through their lives,
Yeah.
basically, unless you really work on this in order to get rid of the trauma.
Yeah.
How can you heal that in this life so that it won't affect your next life?
It's not that simple that you can say how you can heal it, because it's individual for every person. It depends on your story, your earth story, you can call it, from all the lives you have been through, your karmic will, how you have to heal it from that. But you have to learn not to identify yourself within the suffering you're going through, no matter what kind of trauma you are going through. And that's what I'm helping with. Not identifying yourself with the trauma, with the suffering. And that's the big relief I'm helping with.
This is kind of new for you.
Yeah.
But in a few years, it won't be new. But this is an early stage in your life, and everything's just exploded in terms of your awareness and your consciousness about this. So it's an exciting time to talk to you, at least the first time, because it's a new road, it's a new path that you're going on here, and there's a lot of experience that you will have after this show, and it's interesting to see what you've learned already. But it takes a lot of bravery, doesn't it? It must be also important for you to understand this bravery that it takes. Also to be a man in this world, being this unusual, being this sensitive, having these abilities, because this is not, you're not the ordinary kind of man. And I know this from myself. I mean, it takes a lot to stand in your own truth, in your own power, whether you're very sensitive or a little bit more pushy, because in a world where guys are supposed to be in one way, it's almost like it's more difficult to be an unusual boy within a group of other boys than it is to be a girl. But maybe some girls will say that that can also be a difficult thing. But what are your thoughts? What did you experience early on as a child growing up like this?
I experienced to feel very wrong from the beginning. I could feel that I got more affected by situation than my classmates, than my friends, people around me. That kind of sensitivity was very hard for me to try to have a normal life where you have to go up at 7 o'clock and go to school and you have to eat at that time, and you know all these kind of boxes we have been putting in. That was very overwhelming for me, because I already back then had to be longer time in the sensitivity when there was a pain coming, occurring or something, because my sensitivity was very strong, which is connected to my abilities of healing, tapping into people. When I then became a little older, and I still experience it sometimes, that people think I'm very feminine in my energy. And when I was called, you're just sensitive, when I tried to open up to people in my teenage and my early 20s, I felt very wrong. I felt like, okay, I have to be more masculine. I have to do more to be the normal guy. But the more I did that, the more pain I got. The more I got disconnected from my sensitivity and my feelings. And then I just got them stuck inside of me instead of releasing them.
Do you feel that by becoming more yourself and standing in your own power and truth and all of your emotions, do you feel that your access to other people, how they see you, and how you communicate with people on a spiritual level, I guess, and just by meeting people, has become better in a way?
Yeah. Because I have learned, when I got this day where all these abilities just came down to me, I told myself I will not start working with them. I will not give them space until I have enough awareness to not let the ego take over, because I saw that with other persons, where the ego took over when you had the abilities, and I didn't want to do that. So for me, it was about being humble, having the humility enough to be in know that I have the abilities, but I will remove them again. I will never use them if I'm not in a place where I can control them. Not control them, but still in the control where I have to release myself, so I don't use them from my own pain, from my own attachment, from my own suffering.
Mm-hmm. How do you process anger now? Because that's a human emotion.
Yeah. I talk to my liver.
To your liver?
Yeah. I talk to my liver.
Oh. How's the communication there?
At the beginning, I felt I needed to. It's like a telepathic contact we can get with our organs, because as I see it, all our organs is more intelligent than the brain. We just haven't seen it really yet. So when you start to connect with your organs, it's a good way to releasing emotions. You can feel in yourself where you have to. When you're starting the practice, you have to feel, okay, I need to talk with my kidneys now. And what I do is I'm not using words. You can do that. I did it in the beginning, but I imagined my liver as a little kitten. A little kitten? No,
kitten?
A little cat.
Kitten.
Yeah, a little kitten.
Kitten. All right.
I saw my liver as a little kid, and I gave that liver a name. I gave that a name, so every time I felt the anger, I talked to it. And I allowed it to scream at me, and I saw how it was just running around, like feeling the anger. So I allowed this little kitten to feel the anger inside of me, to listen to it, but not react out of it.
But why the liver?
Yeah, I just felt that. But afterwards I figured out that the liver is containing or storing a lot of the anger.
Do you feel that?
Yeah.
Or do you sense that?
I sensed that, but I also read about it afterwards.
It's a cleansing system. It's a cleansing factory,
it's like
isn't it?
Every organ contains different kind of emotions. So you can often sense to your trauma which kind of organ that is vulnerable.
So you're able to tap into your own body and to see where you need to protect or
Yes.
to cleanse
To cleanse.
something, also in a spiritual sense. And this is what you can also do with other people.
Yeah.
And you always feel that it is the correct answer you get when you let's say scan somebody's body.
I'm always going in, doing it, telling myself that I need to do my best, because I don't know if I can. I will never know if there is something I don't see, like a disease I don't see, maybe, or something else. So I just have the. I'll just go in with the state of being humble. Always be accepting the fact that I can only do my best.
Mm. Yeah. Do you feel that these abilities, do you feel that it's a blessing or a curse for you?
Sometimes I feel it's a curse, but otherwise it's a blessing, because it's the part I have been missing my entire life. The hole inside of me my parents talked about, that's the hole they're talking about. It still makes the journey I have as Lucas very painful. Sometimes more painful to have the abilities. And sometimes I'm screaming at my guides and I'm screaming at Cosmos to just remove them from me, because it will be easier sometimes to be normal. It feels like.
But you were never normal.
No. So that's an illusion my ego tells myself sometimes when the pain is too much.
So is something trying to provoke you? I mean, you talked to me at some point, not in this conversation, but you've told me earlier on that something is trying to scare you in the night.
Yeah. And that often comes, I've seen a pattern when I scream at my guides and I scream at Cosmos, the cosmic field, because for me it feels like too big a responsibility in front of, I don't have a teacher or something like that. I just feel like sometimes it's just being thrown down to me and say, you have to do this, you have this responsibility, do this now. So when it's too much, I scream at them, and when that happened, that's often where this entity have tried to scare me.
Is it something that you feel is physically manifesting in front of you in the room? It's something in the room that is manifesting.
Yes and no. I cannot see it, but sometimes I can hear it. One time when I was with my dog, with Balder, we were outside in the garden, and there came this big noise of a pig being slaughtered. Like really big, and my dog just ran inside, being so scared. And that's a hunting, it's a dog that normally hunts animals, so he's not afraid of pigs being slaughtered. So I don't know.
And you heard it outside?
Yeah, in the garden. So in front of the house, like 1 meter from the house.
And your dog heard it as well?
Yeah, he was out in the garden. He just ran in.
And nobody was around or could have even done that?
No, but sometimes my parents, they also said, have you had visitors this night? Because we have slept very bad. And I said, yes, I have. I've been in a little war tonight. So sometimes they can feel it.
So it's a spiritual war, like in fact what we are facing on this planet at the moment. We are in the middle of a spiritual war, but even you go into that realm in the night. Is it when you're sleeping or when you are awake?
It's mostly when I'm sleeping. Sometimes it's also when I'm awake, because often Balder shows me, because it's not always I can see myself. If I'm having a period where I'm on moment, it's called. If I'm having a moment where I'm not that awake, if I'm just sitting and eating or doing something very, very humanized, you can say, I cannot be aware. I'm not always aware if an entity comes, and then I can see it on my dog. So he shows me, and immediately I just go in and I have to tap in. So I tap a little bit on my third eye, and then I just close my eyes, and then I go in to see what it is. So
you use tapping?
Sometimes, otherwise not. It depends. It's actually different every time.
Do you think you could be part of, there's something called a super soldier program where some people can access that realm. Maybe they were physically trained to be super soldiers through mind control, or they were operating on a more spiritual realm, and they actually enter that field in the night, going into another dimension, or even maybe working in this dimension. It depends. Or a targeted individual, because that's also something a lot of people are experiencing with these electromagnetic frequencies, maybe that the military already has secretly that we haven't been told about. I mean, there's a lot to hit you with right here, but maybe you get the point.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like my body's an experiment for something else. I do, but I also feel that my soul knows what it's doing. So I just observe. Sometimes I'm waking up if I'm asleep. It's funny because my dreams is not that crazy. I don't see a lot of things when I'm dreaming. Sometimes I do, but often I can't remember. They are just very real, like the same as I see now, for example, or the same as I feel now. Which is also very spiritual, of course, and very energetic. But it's the same. But sometimes I wake up with a calling from what I believe is my soul. Just say, you have to wake up now, you have to run. And then I just see this kind of UFO just flying towards my mind.
UFO?
Yeah, in this other realm. I just see it flying towards my mind. And I just wake up with this, you have to run now.
Do you think that's going into another dimension, or just a vivid imagination in your dream state?
I have learned to see when it's imagination and when it's not imagination, because I've been so skeptic, because it all happens so fast. that I needed to learn to see what was the difference between my imagination and what is real. But today I'm still like, I have no idea if everything is an imagination, because truly all life is an imagination, right?
Yes, especially if we are part of this project and we are part of this sophisticated computer game in a way, in a holographic illusion, and none of us really exist, maybe. But we do manifest on this three-dimensional plane, at least for a while, so we may be a very sophisticated holographic projection or manifestation, all of us.
I learned not to be scared during the war I had. It was every night for a lot of months. I had this going on, not a lot of sleep, and just a lot of stress, you can say, on an energy field. And one day I was just laying on the floor before I went to bed, with all these energies around me, which wasn't mine. I could feel it was something else. And I just thought, what is this? And what is this about? And what is Lucas actually? This demon trying to go into my mind, is it actually dangerous? Or is it here to teach me? Because if everything comes from the God, from the Creator, from the consciousness, are we in danger? Are we just in a teaching? If God wants us to be in love, if God wants us to be alive, which is the reason we are alive, why should God then want us to be in danger? So I just saw it as a moment of pain.
Well, a lot of people physically in this world are going through a lot of pain.
Yeah.
And we can say, oh, that's there. They chose to reincarnate in this life, but I mean, and they had to go through all of these things that are really, really painful and totally unacceptable. Also, what we know is happening to children being under unbelievable circumstances and pedophilia, and we hear about these elitists doing satanic rituals and all of those things that are happening, and just to people in general around the world as well. I mean, how can we justify in a spiritual sense that these things are actually taking place? We can't, can we?
No. For me, there is a very, very thin line between when you start to awaken and you start to see that suffering is a part of life. That doesn't mean you have to accept people causing suffering towards others. We should not accept that. If you read Bhagavad Gita, I have not read it. I have just read a little bit in it. If you read in that and you see Krishna, which is the God and the avatar, he also tells that you have to fight. When the time is right, you have to fight. You have to fight for the love and you have to fight for your life. So what I mean with that is, when you see children suffer, it's very hard to... I feel the suffering myself also. I don't feel it as hard as they do, of course, but I just feel a little glimpse of it. The same with if there is a war, I know it before because I feel a little part of it in my heart and in my body, because I'm connected to pain, because we have to release pain. That's part of my responsibility. So when there is a kid that's going through, let's say, abuse or something else, we have a little innocent being that's not in a place where it's meant to cause pain for others yet. So it's very hard to understand and to accept that there is a karmic wheel of that being before have done something else. But the fact is that it's true. That doesn't mean we just have to accept it and not help that kid. Because if we grow our empathy and our love, no matter who it is, then we expand our consciousness holding hands. I'm not done with suffering either. I have a lot of pain. And I'm going through a lot of processes sometimes, because Lucas is still a bit attached to the ego. He's not liberated yet. He's not in the heaven, as Jesus said.
But can we even be when we are here? This is what we talked about before.
I believe we can. I can see we can. And I can also see a lot of people can be in heaven. Heaven is not something somewhere else. Heaven is within ourselves. When we have attained, when we have liberated ourselves from the ego, from the self. If you look at the old Buddha, before the disciples put some religion in it and put some other things in it, Buddha didn't teach about protection from enlightened state. Buddha just told you what you were not. The ego. So what I say is that I have all my empathy and all my compassion with everyone suffering. And I invite everyone to hold my hands while we walk the journey together. Because we have chosen it.
Do you think that you are what they call an indigo child or a crystal child? I mean, you were born in 1994, and it is said that a lot of these children that may be very new on the planet and have special abilities. We talked about being a different type of man, which I guess is true for everybody who has these spiritual abilities, which is, I guess we more know that this to be a woman's type of work, but not today so much. There are more male teachers, that we've always had them, but there are more are coming more are here on the planet now to be teachers, and hopefully in a good way. But how do you feel connected? I mean, do you feel that you could be a child, a crystal child, or an indigo child, something like that?
To be honest, I felt I was a crystal child when I started. Before I got the concept of it, I just felt this kind of blue crystal around my area, around my aura. But I'm in a place now where I'm more in sense with God of the pureness, where it's not in the conceptual thoughts. There's no conditions. That means I'm not really a part of being a crystal child, because I don't even see my soul that much anymore. I don't identify myself with the soul. I'm on the journey right now to identify myself with God, with consciousness, with love. And that has no concept, not even my soul.
And a lot of the concepts are actually also born in a more new age kind of way, right? And we don't even want to associate true spirituality with a new age religion or a certain way of thinking that is also in a box in a way, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you've also said that you were on Atlantis, and you've also said that you remember or have been told you've been in Sirius, you know, the star constellation Sirius, and even on the Lyra, in the Lyra system. How do you, first of all, please talk about those experiences, but also what is your idea of alien life, ET existence? Do you know about races and who's visiting Earth or anything?
I have not seen anything from my time at Lyra. It's like there is something that I'm not ready to see yet, because I don't get the downloads. I don't get the information. I'm not so interested in it anymore, but I know there is a part of it that I need for my evolving, but I'm not ready yet to see it. It's like a black spot in the memory, you can say. So there is something from my personal view that I'm not ready to. After that, when I went to Syria, I've been a lot at Syria. And at Sirius. Sirius, yes, Sirius. And at Sirius, I evolved this very strong ability to my telepathy, because they don't communicate at Sirius the way I see it. They just use telepathy. So when I was done at Sirius, I was very ready to come to Earth, because Sirius is very, it's not strict, but it's very serious.
No pun intended.
I didn't thought about that, but yeah, it's very serious. So you're very dedicated to your work.
So
Very
they don't
devoted.
use words, they use telepathy.
Yeah, they have a
And-
brain for telepathy.
Right, and what do they look like? Are those the ones you think are described as the Nordics, looking quite a lot like humans,
Yeah.
in a blue-eyed, maybe blondish hair, and what
Yeah.
they talk about were those who also inhabited Atlantis, huh? Or at least some researchers talk about that.
Yeah, the things I tell now is just from myself, because I haven't read about other things. So what I see is
What
very...
we want to know.
Yeah. What I see is a very human-shaped, a little bit taller, but also more glowing in the skin. It's like there is a light behind it, that like the skin is glowing more, like a little field around it. And after Sirius, I took to Atlantis with a lot of others. And I've been there for a long time, where I also taught. I had a temple, which was a pyramid with the 4 corners, because then the top was the portal to the 5th dimension, which was where I got the contact with Tamilka, with my guide from Orion, connected to the pyramid. And I got told that I need to build a pyramid this life, because I need to teach.
You need to build a pyramid in this life.
Yeah. I don't know how, but I need to build a pyramid this life.
Oh, I hope it's not going to be as big or as heavy as the ones in Egypt, huh?
No.
Because we still don't exactly know how they were built.
No.
Or maybe you can tap into how they were built. People talk about that humans at that time had the ability to move objects with the power of the mind. When the pineal gland was not as calcified as it is today.
You could just lift things up with your mind. Yeah. The thing was, at Atlantis, we were not in this suffering and pain, and not in touch with the ego the same way. We were very connected to animals, to crystals, to guides, to everything. We're just in touch, because we were just so present and so pure. When Atlantis stopped, when Atlantis sank, the highest consciousness of the people went to Tibet. Some of them went to Egypt, and some went to South America. The pyramids you see is the ones that was going from Atlantis to Egypt, and they have just lifted. They have lifted the pyramids up, but they also had these kind of Atlantis technology, Atlantis technology to help with it. After that, it got destroyed, because the world would be in a place where we shouldn't have it. So if you go around today and gather information about Atlantis, you will only find it in vibrational messages. Because if something was written down, it could be in contact from the dark places. So instead, they have just integrated in vibrational messages around the world, where you have to be in a certain kind of frequency before you can get it. And that ego cannot exist in that frequency. So it's like a protection to it's not getting into the hands of the wrong ones.
So you're saying that the pyramids in Egypt were not built on the Giza Plateau in Cairo, but they were moved, flown, they flew, or what, through some kind of technology from Atlantis?
No, I actually see them being built there.
So they were built there?
Like a tribe from Atlantis went to Egypt and they built it there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Maybe the ancient Egyptian culture was that evolved. I mean, that's also something we've talked about on the show, that maybe what we hear about Egypt is also certainly not telling us the whole story about how evolved they were technologically and also spiritually.
The tribe from Atlantis going to India, not to India, to Egypt. They were very evolved, but they also knew that they have to get rid of this knowledge, this wisdom, because we will go into a certain period of the world with so much chaos that we will not be able to handle those technologies and those wisdom.
Why were we going into this another cycle of chaos? Was there another great reset back then, like the one we are possibly facing now?
Everything we experience right here, right now, is a suffering we have going into because we wanted to experience from it. We want to experience the chaos, the suffering, even though it sounds very, very stupid. But we want to. On a soul base, we want to.
Because it will connect more people to each other, to a greater understanding, to the universe, and to the universal power, so to speak.
Yeah, we have the ability, even though there is a lot of galaxies with higher frequency than on planet Earth, we have the possibility from planet Earth to liberate into God directly. That's a big opening. So when we have been incarnated in other beings, in other galaxies, we are still going through a process. We still have struggles and hindrances and challenges in those dimensions, but we're just in a higher consciousness. Then we go down to this place with a lot of chaos, but this place it's not like a getaway, but it's just very compact of chaos, which is having the portal to liberate it directly to God. And that's why it's a big opportunity, and that's why it's a big blessing.
And a lot of people are waking up, but we must say, and this is a fact, that most people are not waking up at the moment. So what will happen to all of the people that does not wake up? Will they just expire or die, and then that was just their time here, and they have played their role, even if it's somebody we actually really love and feel very connected to?
Yeah, there is when 2012 happened and the world should
end.
Yes, the world should end. It was about there came a new energy to the world, the same time as the Kundalini from the earth, the earth's Kundalini traveled from Tibet to South America. There came a new energy down to the earth that raised the earth's frequency. I just call her Gaia now because it's easier. So Gaia raised the frequency. If we cannot follow that frequency in the next incarnations, we will be traveling to a world with a frequency that fits our own frequency. So those people that's not waking up, most of them, a lot of them will travel to a planet with a little lesser with a little lower frequency.
Will it be another planet, or will it be another dimension of Earth, a parallel version, another parallel, say, dimension of Earth? I mean, there may be a lot of Earths there if we are in this multiverse.
I see it as another planet because it's a masculine planet. If you don't wake up on this feminine planet, then you have to go through a masculine again.
But couldn't there just be a masculine version of Earth if we talk about masculinity and femininity?
We could say that, but we could also when we yes, but this Earth still has its energy, because this Earth, this Gaia is still a soul. If we take the concept of soul, it's still this kind of energy with a lot of empathy, a lot of chaos, and a lot of love. So it's a liberation through chaos into love. If you're not ready to do that, if you haven't taken the opportunity, then you will go to another planet, a masculine planet, from another soul, having to know that, because then you didn't take your opportunity.
But many people talk about there being many versions of Earth, and some versions in a parallel dimension, vibrating slightly on a different frequency in order to manifest, maybe in the same space in a way. That some are more evolved than this version, and some are less evolved and more chaotic and full of terror and madness, and some are more in bliss. What we could be or maybe have been here. Thoughts?
As I see it, we are traveling in different dimensions through chaos and through more chaos or through more peace. But the best way I can describe it is that if we're sitting here, I'm sitting here as Lucas now. Lucas is not waking up enough to follow Gaia's frequency. That doesn't mean he just go into another dimension of Gaia. That means his entire energy through all the dimensions from Gaia is going down to another dimension from a masculine planet. That's more associated with Mars, for example. It's the same kind of energy, but just a smaller planet.
But it's also a political agenda at the moment to create an imbalance between the sexes, between masculinity and femininity. This is happening on a more, let's say, on a human, physical level. But of course, it's an emotional and mental level that they are operating on in order to create separation and not unity. Why do you think this is happening?
When you look at the sex through the times, on this earth, it has never been so separated into a feminine and masculine as it is in this period of the last 1,000 years, maybe 2,000 years. Before that, you could see the Greek philosophers. They were not into the sex the same way. The same on Atlantis. On Atlantis, I was not called a boy, even though I had a more masculine energy. It was not such a name as a boy or a girl. It was just one, but just more like I had a partner at Atlantis, and I was like, if you take the infinity sign, I had one of the signs, and she had the other one, and together we were just going into this pattern of energy floating. If I was alone, I would still be one, but I will not be masculine. I will just be my own. But together, we just harmonized each other's energies into being fulfilled, you can say. So what we're going through... So
it was a more androgynous beings then?
You can say, but it was still very, as I see it as still very humanized, but just in a way where you're not into the sex. We're manifested through the time since then that there is a boy and there is a girl. When we say that enough in our mind, the body starts to tell that this is a boy, this is a girl. So right now we are in the liberation of that again, and that's why we need the chaos before. We need to get all the dark corners being seen to start to liberate again, so we can be one, a unity without the sex. And when that happens, that will happen the same day as the great shift in consciousness happened on Earth. And 50 years after the great consciousness happened, Christ will incarnate again, not in a physical body, but in consciousness, and giving new information.
But isn't that a very old-fashioned Christian concept that we've heard so many priests and religious believers talk about throughout history for a very long time, about the coming of Christ,
Maybe, but they also had it from a place. They have just been manipulated or fabricated in another way, so it fit into religion. But Christ was Christ. Jesus was Jesus. Jesus was very pure, a very big teacher, like Buddha.
So you think it was a real man walking the earth?
Yeah, I see him because I was also. I see him. I have seen how he taught. I believe 100% that he existed, but I also believe it's totally different than we see in the religion. The religion is. It's more like a story that they have built upon.
The way he was described in the
Yeah.
Bible, and the way that, of
Yeah.
course, the religious teacher or the priests have been, describing Jesus.
Yeah. I'm carrying a bit of his energy within me. The Christ consciousness is the consciousness that since his time, because already at that time, Christ was being called a maniac. He was insane. But he was not insane, he just didn't fit into the boxes they tried to make that time. Since then, I have been connected to his energy, and throughout the last 1,000 of years, I've been hunted down. Every time I started to activate the Christ energy in me, the Christ consciousness, my powers of healing, my powers of expanding the consciousness, not just towards myself, but towards the people around me, have been suppressed in a way where I have been haunted and been killed for so many lives.
So what will happen in this life? Is that the demiurge, do you think? Or the devil or something?
Yes, it is. But it's still a part of the soul contract my soul have made with that demiurge thing. I have to go through that because I have to be suppressed so much so I can learn to be liberated from it. So that means when I'm sitting here now, not right now, but in this moment where I started to open up about my abilities, I meet a lot of shame, I meet a lot of blame, and I feel a lot of people want to kill me. I also know some people that want to kill me.
You mean in real life?
Yeah. I have not met them, but I know how they look and I know their name.
Really?
Yeah,
Isn't that just some kind of paranoia?
No, because I cannot say how, but I have talked with some people that actually know them.
Oh.
And they say, yeah, I'm pretty sure you're right.
Not very charming, huh?
No, because then they...
Why? Why would they want to do that?
Because if they are...
And why are you that important?
It's the Christ consciousness. The Christ consciousness, there's a reason why Jesus got hanged on the cross. Because the more we expand the consciousness, the more the demons, the more the lower frequency fear. Because the more we expand it, the more they can't live in it. So they're just fighting for their life, and I understand that. I understand they're fighting for their life. We will all do that, right? So why is this happening? It's the Christ consciousness. It's the consciousness where it's not religious, it's just pure. The same with the Buddhahood. It's just self-realization. Because there is an energy when you connect to it.
How do you want to teach people in the future? How do you see yourself as a teacher from now on?
I see that I build like a society with a temple in the middle, and then houses around it and fields around it. And then people come, like a retreat for animals and humans. They can come, they can be there for as long as they need. They can be healed. And then
but won't you then put yourself or be placed in a position of, like, say, becoming idolized, becoming a guru, a position of a guru, so to speak, which is what we must all be careful of not going in that direction.
Like I said before, the teaching will be for me going through the suffering with them hand in hand. We're walking the journey together. So maybe I have the place and maybe I have the ability to tap into some wisdom, but I'm walking the path with everyone else in the same pain, in the same suffering. So for me, that will be like the reason for not being a guru. Because for me, in the New Age, there's no leaders. There is just inspiration between every one of us.
So what do you think is the greatest challenge humanity is facing at the moment on planet Earth? What is our main goal at the moment? What let's say, what do we need to dissolve or to change, to work on?
When we look into within ourselves, you can find the entire universe. You can find the entire universe within yourself. The thing is that we are very afraid of feeling it. We are very afraid of feeling our own powers. We're very afraid of opening up to the expansion of what we are and what we are not. And those things, they have been hidden in the thoughts. All the thought forms, they are hiding the truth. So what is the biggest challenge on a global form right now is that the thought forms are rising to hide the truth that none of us really know, but we're just seekers of it.
So that's the greatest challenge humanity is facing at the moment.
Our thoughts, and how the thoughts are controlling us, how we identify ourselves with our thoughts.
Because we are under severe collective mind control from all sides, from the political system, the financial system, the educational system, and of course from the mainstream media. So in order to tap into what you also talk about, transcendental wisdom, and to become one with your own spiritual energy and power, and to understand the universe more, how do you think people can be, let's say, liberate themselves more and stand in their truth, in their own wisdom?
The first step is to be more aware of your thoughts. Start to observe them. Because all the thoughts we have, and I also have it, they identify within myself. So I start to get feelings from them. When you start to be aware of just observing them, you start to liberate just a tiny part of the suffering. And there is a lot of depthness in observing the thoughts, because the mind is a trickster.
Say depths. Yeah.
Depths.
Depths.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So when we start to identify ourselves with the thoughts, we put a lot of chaos in the side of our heads. And then we start to fear the truth of what is behind this universe. But it is a part of us. Every little particle is alive. Every breath, every awareness, every love, it's always active. And even though we don't see it, it's always active. But if we start to see it, we start to awaken to the truth.
After all, it's the age of truth, isn't it?
Yeah. And that's why we're here.
That's why we're here.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's so much you'll have to do from now on. And there's probably a lot to learn from now on. But there's also a lot you can start teaching people, and you are already doing courses, and you're already taking clients, and you can even do this online, I understand, and even in English, and the best way that you can guide people in Danish, of course, which is your language, and then in English. But if people want to get in touch with you for a consultation or to know more about your work, how can they do so?
They can look at my webpage. On my webpage you can see all my courses. You can see some of some of the ways I'm making a session. It's a little bit different every time, so therefore I cannot say exactly how a session will be. It's not like a hypnotherapy, like, okay, you do this and you do this, because everything is different. But on my webpage you can see my courses. I both have in Danish, in physical, but I also make in online courses, because animal telepathy, which is I'm focusing on right now, you don't have to be physical to do that. And in the near future, I will also make courses, also online, about self-healing, about discovering the truth within yourself, about letting go of your traumas, and how to heal from an expanding consciousness.
And you can guide people, of course, doing that and try to release this trauma, and also you can do this with animals and animal telepathy in one way or the other. Yeah.
Right now I'm making weekend courses in animal telepathy, but I will also start, if there is someone that feels a very deep call for it, I'm also open to make a long apprenticeship where they can really learn and go deep if they want to go out and help other animals. And I can do the same with my healing abilities, with the sessions. If someone feels that, I'm also open to have an apprenticeship where I can learn people what I do. But right now it's weekend courses in animal telepathy, because for me that's a good way to expand the telepathy, so we can put rings in the water, just opening the consciousness to animals, because we haven't talked much about it yet, but they're very pure, and they're on a far higher level of soul experience than we imagine.
So are you able to speak not only to, is it mostly to dogs or to cats, or can you also use telepathy or communicate in a telepathic way to, like, say, predators, for example, or other animals, dangerous animals?
Yes, I'm using my telepathy from my time at Atlantis. It was going further to Tibet, and then it's coming back to me now. This telepathy is with 3 different kind of forms. It's an instinct telepathy, mental telepathy, or intuitive telepathy. That's the three ways. Everyone finds their own way, and I help with that. But for me, it's like the way I do it is that I connect to the soul, and I see the soul's karmic history. I talk to the soul, so I see why it is like it is, and why everything happens for that reason. So therefore it doesn't matter if it's a mosquito, an elephant, a tiger, or a dog. I talk with every animal.
But could you pacify a tiger or something if you were standing in front of it?
I could learn it, but it's not important for me to learn. That's mental telepathy you're talking about, but that's not the one I'm focusing on. I can use it to call on dogs, for example. I can just close my eyes and sometimes a dog comes to me. But it's not something I want to train anymore. I rather want to spend my time focusing on evolving my abilities towards the reason why the tiger wants to attack you from a soul level. That's more important for me than the mental level. The mental level is more like pacifying the tiger. So I could learn that. I have also some experience, not with pacifying a tiger, but I have some experience with those things, and it can be fun. But it's more like a hobby for me. It's not my responsibility to do that, because there is far more important ways to use the telepathy than those things.
It would be very interesting to follow your journey from this point on. But before we end, do you have a special message or something for people watching here that you want to end with?
I have a message for the group souls of the animals. You can call it council, you can call it a lot of things. I call it group souls. This message is about you have to watch your own reflection of your life. every animal is so pure that everything that happens for that animal, if it's a dog, if it's a cat, whatever animal else you have back home, or predator, what you experience is a self-reflection of what you have to look inwards for yourself. Never judge the animal, because the animal doesn't have an ego. The animal doesn't think. It's just pure. It's here to help us. And it's here to show us what we don't see, because we're trapped.
So what about a message for people here? Do you think that there's great hope for humanity to live in a beautiful world after this chaos we're in right now, or very soon, hopefully?
As I see it, as I said before, that we will go into this state of being more in the Atlantis consciousness. We will go into that after the chaos. We will not reach it the same way, but we will go into the more peace and more love. And after that, it will be the time where the Christ consciousness come down and incarnate in the energy field to give us new wisdom. And for me, that's very beautiful. For me, that's not even great hope, that's just a reality that it will happen. Everything happens the exact way as it has to happen.
If it's something good, and this is what I'm hearing, then we hope it will happen soon, huh?
Yeah, I think that will go a little time, but it will happen. Mm-hmm. You can feel it in your heart. I can feel it in my heart. I'm very thankful for it, for being here on this journey with everyone else, together.
Great, and we are very thankful that you were with us today, and it was very nice getting to know you and to hear about your journey and your mind and consciousness expansion, which is relatively new, and as I just said, it will be interesting to see where you take this in the future. But I want to say thank you very much for being with us here. Lucas Bergendahl.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to Lucas Bergendahl, and thanks to all of you for watching Age of Truth TV. You can support us by clicking onto our website, ageoftruth.tv. And please like our videos, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell for notifications. You can sign up for our newsletter on our website, ageoftruth.tv as well. Please also subscribe to our alternative channels on BitChute and Brighteon. Your support is greatly appreciated. And on behalf of the Age of Truth TV team, we thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again soon.